Okay, another day working on the Mustang. So in that last video there, I was working on the carburetor, and I got it all back together. So let's take a look. You can see it's all back together. But what we're gonna be fighting with this car until we eventually take the tank out is this. If you look down in there, that's the fuel filter, and that's all the rust and debris that was in the filter. So got a new clear filter now, so I'm gonna be able to see as the rust travels up here. The other thing was timing, and if we take a look at the crank pulley, I got a new crank pulley here, and as you can see, those are your degree marks right there. So that's 10 before top dead center. That's 10 after, I'm sorry. That's 10 before, that's 20 before, that's 30 before, and of course there's 40, and then there's top dead center. But the problem I was having is when you time an engine, if you look down there, you see that pointer right there that lines up with the pulley. Let me get a screwdriver, hold on. Alright, the pointer I'm talking about is right there. Hopefully you can see that. That pointer lines up. You put your timing light on number 1 spark plug wire. You got your light flashing, and then when you set your distributor for base timing, of course you have to disable the advanced system first, but basically you're setting your base timing up to this motor. I think is around 10 degrees before top dead center, and it's about 30 full advance. So when I had my timing light, I couldn't see any of the marks at all, nothing. So I have an advanced timing light, so I set the timing light, I set the timing light to 98 degrees before top dead center. It ain't running right. The motor's not going to run there. So I'm like, something's wrong. So I took number 1 spark plug wire off, took the plug out, turn it over by hand, get it on the compression stroke, bring number 1 up to top dead center, to the pistons right at the top, and it should be right around 0 on your crank pulley. The thing was, well, 90 degrees off. So if you look at this pulley is keyed. There's a keyway right here, and then there's a rubber insulator all the way around here. It's a dampener, and then this is fixed to that, and then the outer ring is fixed to that. These can slide. This can slide on this. The rubber goes bad and it slides, so it's no longer true top dead center. So that's what we're after today. I'm going to take that power steering off, take the fan off, take the shroud off, and take those belts off, and I got a new pulley here, and we're gonna match it up. All we're gonna do is align the keyways, and then, you know, if they line up, which I'm sure they're not going to, but if they line up, we'd have a problem. But I'm pretty sure that old pulley down there, that old harmonic balancer, is no good. So that's what we're going to do today. Hopefully today we can make some progress, because it's, you know, we achieved the goal of making it run good on 8 cylinders. Well, the goal is not to just run on 8 cylinders. The goal is for it to run right. So we got to have the timing and fuel correct. That didn't take long. Let's see. Recording this camera took me 10 minutes. The film was running the whole time. Let's get down in there. And there's the crank pulley. So we got one more bolt in the center that we're going to take out. And that's the pointer I'm talking about right there. That's the pointer that lines up with the scale on the crank pulley. So I'm going to take that bolt out of the center. There's a bolt in there. Take that bolt out, and then we got a couple tools over here. This is a puller that I'm going to use to pull that off the crankshaft, and then this is the installer. So that's the only way you can get that harmonic balancer off and back on. So puller and then installer. So alright, let's keep going. So I got 2 bolts in the crank pulley, and then I got my ratchet on the big crank bolt, because you got to hold the crankshaft in order to loosen that big bolt. So, and I got a pry bar up against the water pump there, so let's see if we can loosen that bolt, the center bolt. So now, what we want to do is we're going to use this remover. I got a long and a short depending on how much room you got. So I'm going to go with the long one because I think we're going to need it. But yeah, so we're going to have 3 bolts in here that go into the front of the crank pulley. Right here. So we're gonna catch it. We're gonna catch it in, well, actually probably 2 on this. So we're probably gonna catch it on 2 because you can't catch 3. So we're gonna catch it on 2. 2 bolts in there, and then we're gonna push on the crankshaft. So the crankshaft, the tip's going to go into the crankshaft, and then we're going to pull that pulley off. So you want to make sure that that tip right there doesn't go into like the threaded part. What I might do is I think I might put a big washer, because it looks like it could possibly go into where the threads are. We don't want that. You want to make sure they're small enough to go through here, right? Because you don't want to be holding up the pulley from coming out. So small enough to go through there, but a little bit bigger than what I got. This is what I'm talking about right here. Let's take a look. Got the 2 pulleys off. I got the new one and the old one. I have a mark on 10 before on both of them in white, and then 36 degrees on in yellow, both of them. Right? So come over here. So I got them. They're at the, let's put the, we'll put the 36 right at 12 o'clock. Put the 36 right at 12 o'clock. So they're both at 12 o'clock. Right? Now, let's take a look at the keyway on this one. Look at the keyway on that one. Let me compare that. Keyway. Keyway. Look how far off that is. So this ring dampener has spun on the inner piece rubber still looks good. You might look at it and go, doesn't look bad. Well, look how much it spun. That thing is off a country mile. So that's why we couldn't make sense of the timing. That's why I timed it by ear. So now we're going to have the right crank pulley in there, and then we're going to retime it and see if we can solve our timing issue. But look how far that's off. Next thing we got to do is, while we're here, I'm going to change that, I'm going to change the crank seal. I mean, we're right here, why not change it, right? Let's change that crank seal. Hopefully that thing comes out of there. Got a new one right there. Hopefully that thing comes out of there without too much problem. So I got this seal out. So these are nice because they got a little lip edge right there, and then you can, all you do is just pry that lip edge out a little bit and then hook onto it with some vice grips, and then you just kind of like pull the thing right out. Those are pretty good. Rather than the old style, you stick that seal remover in there. These are good. Took us quite a bit of, look at the years of oil that was just kind of just caking up right there. But yeah, so we get a nice new seal right here, crank seal. We'll put that in there. What I like to do is I put a little bit of Loctite right around here, right around the edge right here. I put a little bit of Loctite and then just tap it in. Get something to go, you know, full circle all the way around here. So let's get that installed. So that's the new crank seal. I ended up pressing it in. It was fighting me a little bit, so I decided to press it in. I used the crankshaft pulley installer, and then I just taped 2 races together, so it's about the same size as that seal, and then just thread that in the crank and then just tighten them up. Push it right in, no problem. Now we're going to install the crank pulley. Alright, like always, a little bit of engine assembly lube. Alright, as you can see, this bearing is going to sit right in there, and it's going to thread that into the crank, line up your keyway, nothing to it. We got the lined up, the keyways lined up with the pulley. I'm going to thread this in a little bit. The only problem is I think my nut's going to end up being in there. So let me get a spacer. Hold on a sec. Let's get a spacer here, because when I thread this, down. I'm not gonna be able to see my nut because it's going to be in there. So I got to get a little bit of a spacer in there. A little bit of spacer right there. So let me get a spacer for that. Alright. Crank pulley's on. So now, all we're going to do, put the crank bolt on, tighten the crank bolt, and then put it back together. Alright, so it's all back together. I didn't film me putting it back together. You saw me taking it apart like 4 times. But anyways, it's all back together. We're going to fire it up and see how we did with our timing. Try to get this. I need 3 hands, but I only have 2. Hopefully you can see that. My timing's right about where it's supposed to be. It's about 12 degrees. And then when I rev it up, I don't know if I can do this. I need 3 hands. Timing part's fixed. I still think we got work on that carburetor, but the timing seems to be fixed. Well, the timing's right, but I'm not in love with this carburetor. So we'll take her back down the road, see what she's like. But at least we know the timing is good. So now I'm not afraid to get into it. you know, kick its ass a bit, see what happens. But I don't like to do that if I don't know if the timing's correct. So that was kind of why I wanted to fix the timing first. Try not to go too fast. I don't want to chip the paint. There's no rare flaps, and we're on gravel here. Idle's good. And if you got your foot in it, she'll go. And I can tell just by looking in the Venturi, when you give it gas, it just kind of like, you know, it doesn't atomize the fuel and make a nice spray pattern. It's just kind of like just dropping it in there. Take it off and put a good collie on it instead of this thing. Motor feels good though. Motor feels good. Put a good carburetor on here and we might have something. Next to trip second gear. I don't know, this transmission might have a shift kit in it. Yeah, if you put your foot into it, it just goes. But it's right off of idle. Not too bad. I don't normally spin the tires. Racing carburetor just to put on it for like 10 seconds. Might have to get my brother's car, put that on there for 10 seconds and see what that thing sounds like. Keep working. Hate to think we spent good money on that carburetor and it's gonna wind up in a garbage can. Alright, I'm back here. I got this carburetor apart again. These were the jets that were in the original carb. These are the jets that were in the replacement carb. This is the booster that was in the original carb. That's the booster that is in the replacement carb. That's a JJ1 3D. That's a JJ3 3D. Those are 46s. These are 52s. So that's a big difference. So these jets are going to go in with this booster. Let's see what happens. Well, that's a lot better. Well, it's a good day here. As you can tell, I'm pretty happy. I think she's good now. So, got the timing fixed, got the carburetor fixed. Ended up putting the boosters from the old carburetor and the jets from the old carburetor in the new carburetor, and that made all the difference. That made all the difference in the world. So the old jets were 46s. The new carburetor came with 46 jets. The old jets were 52s. Big difference. So that hood's gonna go on, and she's ready to cruise.